I'm gonna get started now. And a one, and a two. What's up, gamers? My name is Cody, and welcome to part 3, the dramatic conclusion of my Working with Voice Actors series here on DevTalk. Voice acting is not strictly required to make a visual novel, but having it adds a layer of depth and polish that can help your game stand out from the rest of the crowd. Icing on the cake. Giving it the drip, as it were. The goal of this series is to get you familiar with that process, and even if you aren't looking to add voice acting quite yet, hopefully it puts you, as director of a team, into the mindset of working better with others and making their jobs as easy as possible. So who am I and why should you care? Great questions! First off, I'm Cody. We've been over that. Hello! I run a small YouTube channel called Maho Studio. We did RPG Maker content for about 4 years, including my comedy isekai series Defeat the Darkness, filmed entirely in RPG Maker, for which I handled casting and directing, as well as hosting a 50-plus episode run of game design podcasts called the RPG Maker General Podcast, later called Maho Indie Spotlight. More recently, I voiced Jack in Last Meal at Cafe Mori, which placed second overall in the judging for the 2020 Spooktober Jam, and for my work as Jack, I won Best Monster Voice Performance in Spooktober Jam. You'll be hearing about Cafe Mori later in this talk. For this year's Winter Jam, I was voice director for How We Show Love, which is another thoughtful existential game where I once again worked with my Cafe Mori compatriot Coda, who once again did an amazing job with her voice work. You'll also be hearing about How We Show Love later in this talk. Over the last 8 years, I've become very accustomed to working alongside talented people on nonprofit projects, both leading and following, both long-term and short-term. Now, last time on Dragon Ball Z, after scouring the globe for good demo reels and setting up your casting call in an organized and professional manner, you attracted rare and powerful voice actors with the skills necessary to make your game's quality go over 9,000. With the team assembled, it's up to you and your leadership to make the best use of their abilities. Alright, time to do some actual freaking directing. This is honestly a magical part of the process. You give random strangers your words, and they come to life right in front of you. It's insane. It's really hard to replicate that feeling. Hold on to it when you get it. Like most other things we've discussed, there's more than one way to direct your actors. I'm going to call them remote direction and live direction. Both being misnomers because all of this is done online, I know. Remote in this case referring to any sort of direction you give the actor that is in an email or a DM or a Google Doc, and they later record the lines without you being present. Live referring to you and your voice actor both in voice chat with the script, recording the lines, and providing in-the-moment feedback. I'll cover remote recording first, since we've already sort of covered it in part 1. Welcome back to KD133's amazing voice acting spreadsheet for Last Meal at Cafe Mori. I view this as the gold standard for remote direction because it worked. Second place Spooktober Jam 2020. As the person running the team, Katie was blessed with authority, but cursed with responsibility. She got to tell people what to do, but if something is missed or done incorrectly, then that might unfortunately fall on the director. Luckily, Katie came prepared. Everything you see on this document was important. Let's go over some highlights. First, each character's name is highlighted in a different color. An actor can immediately discern which job is theirs. Additionally, Last Meal at Cafe Mori had most of its roles only appear in one scene. As the voice actor for Jack, I knew all of my lines would be down in the tab for my one and only scene, labeled Jack-O-Lantern. All Katie has to do is say, "Hey Cody, all your lines are in the tab for Jack-O-Lantern, and they're highlighted in orange." That makes my job super simple. None of my energy is spent deciphering the script and wondering if I caught everything. My energy can be 100% focused on voicing my character. This goes even further with this row of context for each line. There wasn't just a script, no, there was a script for the script. Each line of dialogue has a blurb explaining the scene and setting the tone. This was especially important for tiny lines where context is everything and the actors need to put a lot of emotion into a scant few words. Nobody had to ask what their motivation was because it had been carefully, succinctly spelled out. This level of preparation makes a voice actor's job extremely easy, and it makes yours easy too, because by organizing your script and clearly establishing context, 99% of your actor's questions have been answered. You are free to go to bed, safe in the knowledge that when you wake up, the lines that come in will roughly match what you expected them to be. These two actors don't even need to hear each other's lines to know how to properly react to each other. You've already set them up for success. If you choose to instead do live direction, I still highly recommend you set up your script this way. Not only because it will help both you and your voice actors, but also if live direction proves to be unviable, you already have a strong backup plan in place. Anyone who can't do live direction will still have strong direction. Let's talk about live voice direction now, getting both of you together to record the lines. First thing is really just scheduling the time. You want the recording session to last between 1 and 2 hours. You want a minimum of an hour in order to get the small talk out of your system, to establish goals, to set the mood, discuss the story, and read through the lines multiple times. You want a maximum of 2 hours in order to keep both of you from burning out. This is emotionally intense work. Discuss with your voice actors what would be a good time to record your lines. As the person making the request for the free labor, do what you can to accommodate their needs. If two actors can schedule the same time, then they can play off of each other, which could make your job way easier. This happened in How We Show Love, where Saoirse's voice actor, Coda, got to record alongside both the voice actors for Willow and for Orla in separate sessions. The conversations were as authentic and natural as they could possibly be, because they were truly reacting to each other's words. There's a conversation between Saoirse and Willow that's relatively routine, but with both voice actors in the booth, you can set up some scenarios like, okay, now you're both kind of low-key flirting with each other. Or, okay, you're hella bummed, they know you're bummed, but you're not talking about it. The big scene between Saoirse and Orla was something that I feel really benefited from having both actors live in the booth. Orla is holding this big crush, but doesn't want to complicate the relationship, and Saoirse keeps pushing to find out what's wrong, so you get this really intense back and forth. Because both Coda and Maya Ann were in the booth acting this scene out, they got a good rhythm for when to push each other, when to pull back, and the subtleties in their performance built onto more subtleties, and it was a very rich performance. Without turning too much into an acting nerd, it was very well done. Some of the acting goals are explicitly established in the writing, but some are variable, and the intensity can be turned up or down either by myself directing, or by one of the actors taking an idea and running with it. By having both actors present, they can establish what those undercurrents are and push each other in directions that wouldn't be possible if they recorded their lines separately in a vacuum. Rare opportunity, but a fun one. And we're finally here. You're in voice chat. They're in voice chat. The script is up on each of your computers. You both have freshly filled glasses of water. You've said your howdy-doos. Time to live record. You don't need to know everything about the craft of voice acting to direct a voice actor, but you do need to know the following: what you want and how to ask for it. If you already put a script next to your script, then you already know what you want. That part's easier. Let's say you didn't, though. I'm going to put you in the voice actor's shoes real quick. How would you say this line? You've likely already realized it's missing important context. Usually, lines that need context are going to be less obvious to you and more obvious to your voice actors because they didn't spend the last month actually making the game. They're way less familiar with it. As director, my job is never to tell you that you did it wrong. You don't know what right sounds like yet, because you're not a mind reader. You're shooting a ball at an invisible basket. If the director wants something different, they ought to direct you to the correct read. That could be as easy as saying, hey, do it a little more sarcastically. Or it could be, they're kind of far away in this scene. Could you try shouting it? Whatever you do, However you choose to do it, just don't do anything that would prompt this kind of response from an angry voice actor. This Twitter convo is from voice actor Ty Coker and has been used with permission. Ty was directly scouted by someone who wanted them to do unpaid voice work. This director specifically sought out Ty and said, "Yo, I like your work, please voice my thing." Ty put together a voice test, which is essentially an audition, but they're the only one auditioning at this point, just to make sure that they're the right person for the job. Ty also included some notes on the directing they did for themselves, i.e., this is how I saw the scene in my head, this is how I did the read for it. The director responds with the following: "Holy S, no, 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 would you try this again?" On top of being very rude, this director did not guide Ty into a better take. The voice actor has been given no information on how to better perform the line. They have merely been told to do it again, which, isn't useful. Now, Ty, being the class act that they are, responds with, "Is there anything in particular that I can do differently?" And keep in mind that this is a Twitter DM. This isn't live. The director can say, "I will organize my thoughts and get back to you." But this director is different. "You sound like Sly Stallone. I don't know how to put it. It's not good, Adrian." Ty Coker has been trying to shoot this invisible basket, and all the director can say is, "You missed the shot." This director, not willing or able to compose themselves, felt the need to fire back immediately with unhelpful information, which not only undermines their production, but also their reputation as a director. You think Ty took this insult lying down? No! They posted it on Twitter, which is how I found it, and how it became a teachable moment for everybody here. Don't do this. Do the opposite. I'm not joking. Do the opposite. Take your time. It's okay to go on a long tangent, as long as you eventually get across the necessary information. You're not going to be perfect at communicating your thoughts to others, but more important than being perfect is making sure that you have done your job as director and they understand the performance you're looking for. Remember that you've both agreed to be in the booth for an hour, and whatever that hour looks like is going to change every time. Once that hour is up, you can both agree to keep going, to schedule another hour later, or for the voice actor to finish their lines on their own time. A voice actor is more likely to work with you again if you demonstrate this level of commitment to both the product and their well-being. Enough going on tangents, let's talk about tangents. Here's a new voice line. Give yourself a second to take it in. I am now going to attempt to direct you on this line, and it will be exactly how I suggested. Long, meandering, but gets the point across. Similar to what you might be doing on your first experience with live direction. I would normally tell you not to try this at home, but the point of these talks is to literally try this at home. So, here we go. This line is a quote directly from me. I was with a buddy of mine, we kinda had the munchies, and we drove to Arby's, which is a fast food restaurant best known for its roast beef sandwiches. I pull up to the drive-thru and the lady says, "Very sorry, we're out of roast beef, but we can sell you some chicken tenders or a milkshake or something." She didn't sound like she was lying, number one. Number two, I've worked food service for years and have no desire to go full Karen on someone trapped in that industry. So it's not an angry line. Number three, I was far more confused than I was hungry. It's like going to Dairy Queen and they say they're out of milk. So the motivation for this line is extreme puzzlement. What do you mean you're out of beef? Emphasis on beef. That's the big word here. What do you mean you're out of beef? Do you feel like you understand the motivation behind this line now? Do you have a good idea of the scene in your head? Did I, as director, eventually direct you to the read I was looking for? Over time, you'll get better at communicating your needs to your talent, but for now, embrace the speed bumps as part of the process. You only have to embarrass yourself for the scheduled hour. And hey, while you're doing it, you're helping a really cool person add some special flavor to your game. If they have chosen to remain in the call, you're doing a better job than you think. Your voice talent will record their entire session in one take as a high-quality WAV file. This way, there's no starting and stopping to hit the record button, and most importantly, they'll never forget to record anything if recording is always on. It will be up to you or your sound engineer to take this raw data, process it, and put it into your game. It's a lot of work, but the end result will be magical. This is the end of my expertise. The rest is up to you. Whether you're considering adding voice acting for Otome Jam, or in the distant future, or you just felt like spending a Saturday getting memed at, I thank you for taking the time to show up today, to study a new element of your craft, and to learn how to better interact with the people around you. A true gamer plays to win, and we all win when we all help each other get ahead. Thank you. I'd also like to briefly shout out 123 Namike for proofreading this script, as well as the last two scripts, to ensure that they make sense to their intended audience. It helps to have an indie dev look at a guide for indie devs. Thanks, Nami. I will now open the floor for questions. Several people are typing. Thank you so much. Question, how do you get started voice acting? Unfortunately, Bonk, this is not a voice acting tutorial. If you go online, there's a million tutorials for that. This is getting game developers working properly with voice actors. So, at least you know how to do that now. Yeah, no problem, no problem. How would you give direction for voice clips instead of full voice acting? That kind of ties into the first talk where we talked about barks and chirps. So in that situation, you would be like, this character uses this bark for asking a question or being inquisitive. This is the portrait we have where she's got the quizzical face. So make some noises for asking a question like, huh? Or the freaking Home Improvement, Like, literally what they do with some video games. Like, this was part of a documentary, and they said it for fighting games. Okay, now give me some noises like you're taking medium damage. Ugh! Ow! So, they can have a little fun with it. Let's see. Olivia, question. Is it better or worse to explain that you're a first-time director? Just better to be honest. Like, hey, first off, be honest, you're a first-time director, but also present your solution. I am a first-time director, but we're going to go slow. So that way I'm never interrupting your process in voice acting. Like, just be aware of it. Like, hey, it's going to be a slow hour. You know, I'm kind of learning here. And by being forthright about it and taking your time, I think people will be far more accommodating than if you tried to keep it secret and pretend you knew everything. For a group table reading, is there any further advice you'd recommend to prepare or set up for a table reading between you directing and the voice actors? So what I would say for that is you don't want to interrupt the voice actor's process, so your job simultaneously gets easier and harder when you have more voice actors, because you set the table and then they go. You don't want to interrupt them. So as director, what you would basically be doing is, okay, we're all going to read this and pretend you're in a haunted house and you're all scared, and everyone just takes that and they run with it. Or you say, you two are openly flirting, and like, that's the direction this time, everything else is on the script, and go. When you have multiple voice actors in the booth, it's all about setting the table, because you don't get many opportunities. They need a lot of room to run and to breathe and to experience each other, and your job as director is technically less important, but still important. Question, this is more of a thing that you'd have to take care of at the moment, but what's the best practice if scheduling gets derailed close to recording times? If scheduling gets derailed, reschedule it. Like, literally, you're the one asking for the free work, so find the time. If that doesn't work, then hopefully you've set up your script in a way where there's context attached, and you just have to bite the bullet and go, hey, we tried, it's not going to happen, hopefully the script is enough, let me know if you have any questions. Like, basically, especially in the context of a game jam with everything being on a tight deadline, live recording is a luxury. It may not happen. So it's always good to have a backup and to allow people to do things on their own time if it gets things done more quickly. Oh, now everybody's typing. Oh no, here they come. Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate the talks. Like, it's one of those things where it's a niche that hasn't really been addressed, you know? Question, is this the last voice acting talk? Yes! This is the end of my expertise. That flowery speech at the end was not a joke. I'm done. This is it. What do I do if the voice actor is not matching well for the job? I need a second here. So, if the voice actor's not matching well for the job, so this assumes that you have either scouted them directly, which is like, uh-oh, because now you have to tell them that they're not a good fit, or you did auditions and casting calls. So, at this point, you have to weigh your relationship with the voice actor, right? Like, if they get past the audition phase and now you are directing them and now you say that they're a bad fit, it's gonna come off badly on you. Like there's no two ways around it. So you can either preserve the relationship both with them and in the community and make do, or you can respectfully say, hey, this isn't quite what I'm looking for, and I'm sorry to have wasted your time. But say it more nicely than that. Find a way to say it more nicely than that. But yeah, like, once you've hired them, then it becomes as much about your relationship with the person as it does about the quality of the product. Character development is more on the writing side, but what are your opinions as an actor? The voice actor for Yoda said this best. Like, there's so many people that can do a Yoda voice, but there's only so many, but, you know, there's only one guy that truly embodies the character, right? So, once you get a voice actor involved, they become part of the character development process. When I worked on Defeat the Darkness way back in the day, there was actually, like, parts of the script I changed because the actor gave me something that was really cool and in a direction I didn't expect. So I'm like, you know what? Like, hold on. You're playing him up like this, so actually I need some of this now to move that in that direction even further. And they were like, oh, cool! You know, because, like, I recognized what they were doing, and I fed into it. I had the ability to feed into it, so I did. God, these are questions. Yes. Question, how much is too much when directing a voice actor? you never... That's an individual thing. That's an individual thing. When you're doing it one-on-one, like, you're going to read through a whole scene, and then you're going to give them notes after they're done. You give them notes beforehand, they enter the scene, they put it in their headspace, they act it out, and then when they're done, that's when you say, okay, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't, here's some notes, can we please try it again? They're going to try it again, and if you liked it and if they liked it, then you can move on. So that's generally how things work, but I would say over-directing is when you stop someone in the middle of their performance, right? Let them finish the scene. It's going to be another 30 seconds to a minute, but they'll comfortably come to a stop. You aren't slamming the brakes and yanking them out of the headspace. You're letting them naturally complete their thought, and then they can dive back in and do the thing that you wanted to direct them to do. Let's see. Question. I had a cast of great voice actors, but first time directing and didn't know what to do. I like to learn stuff before I do it. How do you learn without doing the thing? Well, you attend this talk. Welcome! You've already finished step 1. So, also, preparation. If you saw the spreadsheet from either the first talk or from here, you give up, you prepare yourself, right? Like, if you know you're gonna get beat up, you wrap yourself in bubble wrap beforehand. So, you look at, there we go. You look at Katie's voice acting spreadsheet here. Here's all the context, right? So, even if you don't feel completely confident in how to speak to the voice actors, you still have this as a backup. Like, you aren't leaning completely on yourself in the moment, you know? Because, like, me answering these questions, like, it's emotionally intense. Like, I have to have the whole encyclopedia open, ready to answer these questions, right? So don't put yourself in that situation unless you have to. Like, you can take notes. You can have yourself prepared for when the voice actors come in. As a director, should I be reading the rest of the lines if the other VA can't attend or for say an unvoiced MC? So Olivia, I did this with How We Show Love. Orla's voice actor wasn't able to attend the first session, so I read in their place as Orla, and then Coda did Shersha's lines. And what I can say is having me read those lines as a competent voice actor is better than nothing, right? Like, I did not give the performance Maya Ann gave. I could still put some personal truth behind the lines and still deliver something for Coda to react to. I was still technically better than Coda trying to invent a version of Orla in her head and reacting to that. So you can. Like, it's up to you. Like, if you feel comfortable doing it, I highly recommend doing it, because then your actor has something to react to. Because acting is reacting. Jackie, question. Is there such a thing as over-preparing context for a voice actor? I'd imagine doing the spreadsheet would take a while for a longer game. It absolutely would. For a longer game, like, you look at the context and you look at the lines themselves, the context is even longer than the lines. So you are literally writing 3 times as much. For a longer script, what you would probably do is what they do with, like, actual plays, where you have, like, a blurb at the top for what the scene is supposed to be, and then the scene happens. You know? Like, Romeo is talking to Mercutio. He totally is simping for Juliet and misses her. Like, there's your direction. And then you as director be like, okay, so Romeo is simping hard, but they don't say what Mercutio is supposed to do. So, Mercutio, this time you're supportive, and then we'll do a scene where you're a total dick. We'll see kind of where it's going. But as far as over-preparing, if you can do this for every single line for a longer game, like, do it, because you're just giving your actors more tools. Like, this is completely unrealistic for, you know, the House of Fata Morgana, but it's always better to give your actors more tools. No problem. Happy to help. Man, those were some great questions. All right, this is it. It's 1:45. If you got anything left, this is the time. Why the heck are you doing these so late? It's 1:45 in the afternoon. I'm in America. Welcome to America. I'm on Best Coast. Seattle. Several people are typing. Please put your hate for Seattle in the comments below. Alright, thank you all so much for coming. It's been a blast. You've all been a treat to do this for. These have been excellent questions, and I hope that your dev journey has been made easier by attending. So, what's up, gamers? Have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.